What if I told you that Sullivan City, a small town down Old 83, was the perfect environment for over-policing? As safe as it was, protected by tropical weather, good food, low crime, we are trapped in a dystopian terror. With the border being only 3 miles away from my childhood home, it was not uncommon to hear helicopters throughout the middle of the night, nor to have a young kid with his father jumping through our fence, through the backyard while I bathed in a kiddie pool. I knew it was happening before I had the words to express it, and so did he. Yet, standing on the same ground, we were living completely different lives, as if facing each other from a two-way mirror, different dimensions, different worlds. I never saw that family again. All I remember from the age of 6 was hearing their polite question to cross our backyard to flee the men in green. They wore caps as shields, their bodies brown, their eyes bright, and even as they ran for their lives, their voices were firm, loud, and full of determination, all their possessions in a JanSport backpack. I know they carried more than they let on. They were used to this, and in less than a second they were back to sprinting after our silent nods and our disbelief. They disappeared into the monte, or what we call scrubland. I remember, even as a child, rooting for their safety. This was not the first nor the last encounter as a witness of the ongoing war between the men in green and migrant communities within the RGV. This was in 2006. It is now 2021, and the same act plays over and over and over again. Same script, different people, same cycle, different seasons. I am now 21 and still visit home. I notice how it is a capsule stuck in time, a movie film that never stops playing. Do not get me wrong, businesses are growing, diversity is showing, schools are growing, and architecture is growing as well. So why are our migrant communities not being nourished? Because we are turning our heads away. Unpleasant feeling in your tummy when social issues are mentioned are the muffled cries of our migrant communities. I am also human, so I also have made the mistake of turning my head. We have become desensitized, driving by and seeing one more apprehension by the Border Patrol at the side of the road. It should be heart-wrenching. That could be one of our family members. But we continue driving thinking, well, what can I do? It's not what you can do individually, it's what we can do together. In the RGV, we are in desperate need of a new system, one that works and listens to migrant communities, not hushes them. We begin by fighting the stigmatism about the so-called dangerous US-Mexican border. We preach of working within our communities, and I agree, let's work within our communities, but let us not pick and choose who is deserving of our humanity. It is time we see communities as a whole and not divided by pieces of paper defining whether we are seen as human or not. This real-life dystopian thriller we see every day we walk out of our homes is overplayed, where you're labeled friend or foe, neighbor or foreigner, us or other. Now, if I told you my story was a rare representation of migration to the US, would you believe me? After all, that's how it's depicted in the movies. Why believe otherwise, right? The romanticization of the US and Mexico border continues, a forced union of sisters with bad blood. In reality, most undocumented immigrants do not cross through the dangerous desert, nor do they swim across the Rio Grande Bravo, nor are they commonly caught in a chase through a small town girl's backyard. Statistics show that these percentages are small in comparison to migration with visas, which are government approved. In 2017, 670K of visa overstays doubled the border apprehension statistics of only 304K. The first step to help our migrant communities in the RGV is dismantling the stigma of how active the US-Mexican border in regard to migration from Latin America is. Statistics provided from 2006 by the Pew Research Organization show that nearly half of all the unauthorized migrants living in the US at the time entered the country legally through a port of entry such as an airport or border crossing point. This is a bit lower than the statistics of 2017. My story from 2006 is not meant to defy this statistic. It is here to prove that migration from the US-Mexican border is changing, and it is changing rapidly. This stigmatized story is becoming less frequent. So why are the same harsh policies implemented? This false narrative hurts migrant communities, manifesting itself in police brutality and treating humans as the other. Such as in the case of George Gonzalez, a 23-year-old undocumented worker who identified as a father and husband more than anything. He was beat under police custody to the point where he was diagnosed with a crushed vertebrae and died weeks later on a ventilator. George Gonzalez was no different from us, with a family and a life of his own. Stories make reality, so it's time to move away from that harmful narrative and acknowledge that migration is not stagnant and migrant communities are suffering from distorted depictions. If we stay silent, we are part of the problem. There is no such thing as passive comments or non-harmful comments. Nuanced language shapes thought, and thoughts become reality. If we choose to ignore the problem, people will continue to suffer from systemic oppression. Imagine a world without children suffering by being separated by their parents, through either detention or death, such as in the case of George. Think of your own children, if you have children, and how thankful you may be of their reality in contrast to those of migrant children. What we can do now is share this knowledge, the right facts within our communities and peers. Begin at the dinner table, with your parents, or in school when you're asked to present a research topic, or with your younger siblings when they say something that is not right. How do we expect change if we refuse to have these conversations? What I ask from you today is to share what you learned to a friend, a parent, a teacher, a peer, or a random stranger. Just one person. Let's start this movement by communicating within our own communities about the issue at hand. Let's end this narrative once and for all and get informed the right way, with the right facts. It's a small step with a big impact. Thank you.